What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
And together we're last week's album. We're bringing you the only reviews with two different views. And this week we're talking about Tender Warriors Club EP by Lady Lamb. And we're asking the big question, is Lady Lamb's Tender Warrior Club a strong showing? Cheers, Kevin, and everyone at home.
Cheers, Derek. And all you Tender Warriors at home.
Lady Lamb is the moniker for Ali Spaltro. She previously went under the moniker Lady Lamb, the Beekeeper, but she dropped the Beekeeper the last couple years. She's now Brooklyn-based, although she started out in Brunswick, Maine. This album, Tender Warriors Club, is an EP, and it follows her two LPs After and Ripley Pine. This one comes not too long after. She kind of takes a different approach here. She really got her start in music kind of doing DIY recordings at home. This album kind of encapsulates some of that, and also I saw on her website that she's doing a tour of people's living rooms around the US. So this album kind of supports her US living room tour. Without further ado, let's talk about what it sounds like. Kevin, what'd you think?
Derek, I thought this EP sounds like Adele, Angel Olsen, Bon Iver, and Mirel Wagner create a secret society where the first rule is you don't talk about anything but your feelings.
Like an emotional fight club, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, Kevin, I think My Sounds Like may describe the venue of your emotional fight club, if you will. I think Tender Warriors Club sounds like Lady Lamb recorded an album in her living room so you can play it in your living room. And if you're lucky, this winter you might be able to see her play in someone else's living room.
On that note, I did notice she's still looking for some places to play. So if you're a fan and you got a big house or place, reach out to her.
So let's talk about some highlights. Kevin, what'd you have?
First up, my biggest highlight are the lyrics here. I think they're very visceral and moving and poetic. In Salt, she says, "One kiss sucks the mud clear from my soul." In Tangles, she says, "What more could we be for than the tangles in your hair?" So we just get this really nice mix of emotional and thought-provoking lines that really grab my attention right from the start.
Kevin, I couldn't agree more. That was actually my second highlight. Love and lost love was a prevalent theme. However, I thought there were some interesting takes on it. Some lines in Tangles really jumped out to me. Quick one-liner, "Love is a luxury that I can't quite afford." Another playful one, "For a heart can be as stark and sad as a single laugh in a funeral parlor."
On a similar but different note, I thought her singing style was one of the highlights of this album. It's very unique. There's lots of juxtapositions. She can sound emotional yet detached, melodic yet restrained, and it's all very arresting. Doesn't really sound like anyone else I can think of the way that she sings, so really strong work there too.
One thing that stood out to me was how, even though this is a 7-track EP, in total it's still 31 minutes, so some tracks are relatively long. One common thing was they all had a large rise and fall to them musically. There wasn't a lot of repeated rises and falls, which could become monotonous. And I thought the way she really achieved making these longer tracks interesting was through different intensity levels instrumentally, but then vocally, especially the variety she created vocally, I thought really made some of the longer tracks not feel or seem long.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have to agree. Just to build on that, beyond just length, I think just the conceptual depth of this is really, really interesting and one of my favorite parts as well. Yeah, it's an EP, but you can tell she put a lot of thought and effort into this. We get this really strong theme of striving to find the courage to stay sensitive, and she executes that really, really well across lyrics and sound and just overall arrangement. This doesn't feel like a throwaway 3-song demo EP. This feels like a few more songs and it could be a full, proper album easily.
Those are some highlights. Now let's talk about some lowlights. Kevin, what'd you think?
Yeah, I only have one, and it's not a huge gripe. I just thought the album kind of started off a little slow. The first few songs didn't do a whole lot for me. Definitely on the first couple of listens. Over time, they kind of grew on me. But for me, this EP really starts to pick up around track number 4, "See You." And from then on, it really grabbed and held my attention.
I think you have a good point there. I kind of like the first 3 songs, but I can totally understand how the first track especially can take a while to get into. I mean, at 6:47, I was a little astonished just at the length of that one. It does really start kind of slow and subdued, but later on, I think it really does kind of grow with vocal effects and some other ambient instruments and some electric guitars. I thought it almost reached an Elliott Smith level there for me, but it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, after I thought about it, it was probably an intentional sort of build for this thing, because it really, I think, kind of crescendos about halfway through. To your point, just took a little while to grab me.
But it's rewarding when it does, is it not?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely made those peaks even higher.
Well, I kind of spilled the beans a little bit, but let's talk about the overall rating. And answering the big question, is Lady Lamb's Tender Warriors Club a strong showing? Kevin, why don't you start us off?
Sure. To start with the question, I think, yes, this is a strong showing. Again, especially for an EP, this is a really impressive conceptual, well-produced listen. I think she's very inventive and efficient. She can do a lot with a little and arrange sort of the same elements over and over again, but each time in a new and interesting way. And I think this is a good one for sort of maybe a solitary walk or some alone time to reflect. Feels like you need to be in a little bit of the right headspace to take this one in. But overall, I was really impressed, and I'm giving it a 3 out of 5.
I think we're going to agree on a lot of points here. To get to the big question, absolutely, I think this is a strong showing. It's definitely a different change in pace from some of her LPs, which obviously had a lot more instrumentation, a lot more electric guitars and the like. But this one really stood out to me, just the simplicity from an instrumentation standpoint, but what she was able to achieve with that really stood out to me. The lyrics obviously were very good, and combined with the varied vocal delivery, really made it for an engaging listen. I really like this one. This surprised me. Just the depth from this EP was pleasantly surprising and made for a strong listen. So I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5. And with Kevin's 3, that's a combined 7 out of 10. So go check out Tender Warriors Club by Lady Lamb. And don't forget to tell us what you thought. And thanks again for joining us here at last week's album. Don't forget to subscribe here on the YouTube or on the podcast. And as always, I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
Cheers, everyone.